Hey everybody, my name is Danielle Moon, founder of Women in Power, and this week's episode I'm bringing the very special, very talented, and very funny Lianne Zelsman to this episode. So Lianne, can you go ahead and say hello to everyone and maybe give us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I am Lianne. I am Canadian, so new member of people living in America. But born and raised in Canada, went to school for computer engineering, and then somehow stumbled into a job in tech, sort of accidentally, and now I'm here working at Microsoft.
An accidental happenstance. I love it. So now you have a little bit more of a fun distinguishment to you. I believe we like to refer to you as customer zero. So maybe you could
Yep.
tell us a little bit about how you got that nomenclature.
Sure. So I work in what is essentially our internal IT team here at Microsoft. We're called Microsoft Digital, and we're the ones who are actually implementing the products that are built by the different product teams. So I specifically work in the Power Platform space, hence why I'm here talking to you today.
Yes.
Um, but I'm not part of the product team building that product. I am on the IT side of things. So I am deciding what capabilities get turned on in our tenant, what controls need to be in place so that those things are used safely, what our launch and adoption looks like, how we're educating users, all of that fun stuff. So it's fun because we get to test most of the products first.
Yeah.
And it's cool because we have that direct line of communication with the product team since we're technically a consumer of the product, but we work at the same company. It's very
Yep.
easy for me to get a hold of the product folks and annoy them with feature requests and complaints.
Hmm.
But it's also fun because we're testing things very early on. We're getting to help iterate on those things. We're essentially load testing live in production because our tenant is the largest tenant in the world. We just hit 50,000 environments as of this morning, which is
Oh my,
pretty exciting.
weren't we in the
Um,
like 40 at Power Platform Conference? Like that is
yeah, we had
insane.
35,000 at the Power Platform Conference. Now we're
Oh
at
my gosh.
50. It's accelerating quickly. But the fun part is the product group has not tested everything to the scale that we are operating at. So it's fun to figure out, hey, are we going to hit a limit? Are things going to
Yeah.
explode? Who knows? Keeps me on my toes.
I like that. Will I bring the entire system down? I don't know. Like it could
Maybe.
be. Throw caution to the wind. We got this.
Oh yeah.
So one of the other things I thought was super fun because I mean I got to see you at the governance session, which was of course always the best one to attend to at the conference. But some of the things like people always are asking, it's like, oh, how many people does it take to do all that kind of stuff? I mean, you're running a very small army for the numbers that, when we think of the mothership, uh, you would think you'd have an army of hundreds helping you bring all this stuff together. And that's not true, is it?
No, I would probably sleep better at night if we had hundreds of people helping.
Yeah.
But no, our team is quite small. I am surrounded by many very intelligent people, so it is not me alone. We do have some wonderful people working on this team as customer zero on the security side, on the service engineering side, and tenant administration side of things, but we don't have a whole lot. Like there's across the different teams that all partner together as a part of Microsoft IT, there's less than 10 full-time focusing on Power Platform in our tenant. And when you compare the size of that to the size of teams that are focusing on governing other Microsoft products, we're very little.
Yeah. We run lean.
Yes.
Was it small but mighty as well? So
Mm. Hmm.
and so you shared a little bit about your origin story of like how you came into this. So you said you came from the computer science world, so you knew you
Yeah.
wanted to be a nerd when you grew up. But
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Well, sort of. I mean, I've kind of accidentally fallen into everything in my life. Like I thought I was going to be a professional dancer for quite some time and
Oh
then
my gosh,
realized I was not good enough to do that.
like breakdancing? What kind of?
Ballet was my main.
Okay.
But did the whole shebang of the acrobatics, jazz,
Oh my
lyrical,
gosh.
tap, hip hop, a bit of ballroom. But yeah, greatly mediocre at all of those things. So the professional dreams didn't
Solid
quite pan
B.
out. So I pivoted. I was like, hey, engineering sounds like a good backup plan. Don't really know what
Absolutely.
that is.
Yeah.
Ended up
Every
in some.
dancer's backup plan should be
Oh yeah.
engineering,
Oh yeah,
obviously.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's the natural trajectory.
Yeah.
Ballet and computers, pretty much the same thing.
Just one program or
Um,
another, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, ended up in my freshman year of college, building robots and teaching them how to dance. And I was like, hey, this is fun. Then
That is awesome.
did an internship. My school did 16-month internships, so you'd usually take a whole year off in between your third and fourth year of school and go work somewhere full time for a bit. And
Okay.
I was a software engineer at a cybersecurity company, which was fun, but I realized I didn't just want to stare at my computer all day and write codes. And there
Hmm.
was some coworkers who were in the PM side of things, and I was like, hey, their job seems fun.
Yeah.
Um, and started randomly applying to tech companies, and Microsoft was like, hey, we'll give you a job. Didn't get to pick which team I was joining at Microsoft. When you're a new hire, they just assign you a team. So I ended up
Yeah.
on the IT side, and they said, here you go. And then some people left. The people who were originally handling Power Platform decided to move on to other journeys, and they said, "Hey,
Mhm.
Lianne, you're gonna do this now." So here I am.
You're like, sounds like a great time. Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing. So when you've now been in the community since the Power Platform conference, when I told you, I think maybe Chris Simmons even mentioned that we had this, and you're like, I need to be
Yeah.
part of this. What was maybe some of the main drives that you're like, hey, this seems like a group that I need to be part of?
Yeah, well, I met this wonderful woman named Danielle, and I decided I would follow her anywhere to the ends of the earth. And she said, I have this community, and I said, I want to be in that community. No, to be more serious, I'm surrounded by a very small bubble of women on my team and in my organization at Microsoft, and they are all wonderful. But it is nice
Yeah,
to expand that bubble to be a little bit bigger, get to interact with other women in other industries at other companies using the same technology stack to
yeah,
solve whatever their variety of problems is. And I wanted to expand my network, get to talk to more people outside of that small bubble that I am
yeah,
currently a part of. It's a great small bubble, but
yeah,
you learn so much more when you learn and hear from other perspectives from people doing things differently than you are, and
yeah.
communities like this tend to let you do that.
Yeah. No, it's 100% at the core. That's exactly what we're trying to do. And I mean, selfishly, I've learned so much. It's just insane. And I'm just like, I want everybody to flourish in this way because it's just so different. I look at it Power Platform not from the deep technical. Like I've been on the technical side, but I actually look at the more exciting of like what we can do with it. The vision and the strategy around it is so exciting. So no, it's great to have you part of this, and I think it's important that we have more women who are both on the very extreme technical side as well as the very other extreme of the functional and vision and strategy side, and that's where you start getting some like really cool ideas coming out. So
Yeah.
we're excited that you're here. So let's see, what would you say was your favorite part of being at the Power Platform conference? I know we've had like about a month-ish from it, but is there anything that still stands out to you?
Yeah. This is going to be a very basic answer, but just getting to be at an event in person was really
Yes.
exciting for me. I started my career right before the global pandemic hit.
Yep.
So, like 50% of my career thus far has been fully remote. And then only the last year or so, I've now gotten to have more of a hybrid role and talking to people
Yeah.
in person. But I have never been to like a work event in person before. I've never been to a conference. I've never been to any other type of work function.
Yeah.
So being in person was really cool, especially when I'm trying to have productive conversations about what I'm trying to do with my job and what I'm trying
Yeah.
to accomplish in our space. Like, not saying at all that remote work can't be just as successful, but there's just something easier about being able to communicate with people in person and meet people in
Yeah.
person that just, at least for me, I find it makes it, maybe I'm better at communicating when I can use all my hands and my body language.
The full body
Um,
conversation.
but I left that conference feeling like I'd made so much more progress with
Yeah.
the conversations than I had in so many months of trying to have the same conversations just over a call.
Yeah. No, and I full heartedly like I think it's amazing because we can work with the same individuals for 3 years running, but if you've never like been face to face, like there's truly something that just kind of shifts in that whole relationship that you're like, we've shared a meal together,
Yeah.
we've done this. It's just a funny human little element, but you're like, I feel even more empowered to say like, I know you and how you are and your mannerisms and
Oh,
little things like
absolutely.
that. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
there are some people that I have worked with for so long, but I've never met them in person, and they are like many levels above me on the management chain who
Yeah.
I previously would have been so afraid to message, being like, "Hey, can you help with this?" But now I'm like, "No, we got Thai food together. I can message
Exactly.
him."
I handed him a fork.
Yeah, he asked
We're
me for the
friends.
salt.
No, it's such I would love someone to actually do a deep dive of like why it is that we need that one little singular in-person handshake and all of a sudden it's like unlocked, but there's something to it. So, okay, now you came from more of the technical stack. Would you say today that you're still technical or would you say you're functional or hybrid?
Um, I mean, I am a product manager. I am not a software engineer.
Yeah.
I have not written a real line of code in probably since I graduated from college.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say I am fully technical. My background having a computer engineering degree definitely helps because if I'm in conversations with our engineering teams where they're talking about, hey, like what should the system design look like? What is the
Hmm.
database architecture going to be? I thankfully understand what they're
Yeah.
saying. But I am not the one building anything myself. So I wouldn't say I'm fully technical, but I think I greatly benefit from my technical background
Yeah.
in my non-technical role, if that makes any sense.
I mean, to me, it does because that's I would put myself not as technical as you, but I think just understanding how tables come together, the attributes, why a data set is important, data types are important, like having that again, where it's like I've never written a line of code, but I can stay in those conversations. I feel is that like little one up that sometimes separates you to be able to get into more conversations. Because I mean, if you deal with the pro dev, sometimes there are the ones that they're very you're either smart or you're not type of personality. So it's like if you can't hold your own, you might not get a second conversation. So I do think it's very valuable.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So have you ever been given a good piece of advice that you feel like resonates and maybe comes into your head every, once in a while?
Yeah, one of my very first managers, he was actually my manager during my internship at that cybersecurity company.
Hmm.
He was like, "Hey, figure out what you're good at and figure out what you're bad at." And I was like, "Okay." Um, but I've now realized how important that is. Like everyone obviously has different strengths and weaknesses,
Right.
but there's so many different ways that you can approach your job and your role and approach like everyone can be successful in their own way and it's very important to be self-aware of what you are good at so that you can leverage those strengths to do whatever you're trying to do in the same
Yeah.
way that if you're self-aware of what you're bad at you can keep an eye on that or like lean on others to fill those gaps.
Yeah.
I think people run into problems when they try to just do everything and you can't
Hmm.
no one is good at absolutely everything. I'm good at very specific random stuff. And that is how I am being successful in my career. And the stuff that I am bad at, I'm like, okay, well, let's work on improving. But also there are certain things I'm never going to be good at. So I'm aware of them and I have mitigations to handle them so that they don't impact what I'm trying to do.
Do you feel like having a network that can make up those areas is very valuable for you in that regard so that you don't feel like you
Oh
have to
yeah.
carry the load? Yeah.
Oh yeah, like anytime there's something I can't do or I don't know the answer to, I have a very long list of smart people that I
Yeah.
work with who are good at those things that I can be like,
Right.
"Hey, can you help with this?"
Yeah.
Because that is not in my skill set.
I feel like people again like misunderstand when I'm like, you need a network. It's not just having a lot of acquaintances on LinkedIn. No, you need a network that when you pick up the bat phone, they'll answer. Like, when you're
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm in the weeds of this, it's not my forte, but like I know who to call.
Mhm.
That is, if anyone is in younger career level times or even mid-career, like do not underestimate that network. Because to me, that's what makes you kind of stand above because you're like, hey, I don't need to know, but I know who I can call.
Yeah.
So, um, what is the favorite thing within the power platform space that you have seen built? Like what would you say is like a cherry on top of
Ooh.
you're like, ooh,
Oh, my answer is going to be so specific and nuanced.
yes.
Um, so speaking of the really smart people that I work with,
Hmm.
there's this lovely man named Andrew. He's one of our security engineers, and he's building a lot of the tooling that we use to govern and secure the Power Platform.
Okay.
And he has built many a Power App to help with that. And
Hmm.
my personal favorite is he has a Power App that shows which connectors and connector actions we have allowed in each of the DLP policies that people can select for their
Okay.
environments. And it lets you dive deeper into like what you can do with those connections and what the different rules are around them.
Hmm.
And now the V2 of that app, it lets you pick and choose and configure your own policies. And it's such a nuanced thing in my space because I work in security and governance for Power Platform, but not having to like just having a place where I can go and reference and see everything that's available and what's allowed where and point users to.
Yeah.
Um, it brings me joy. I
I love
look at it
it.
almost every day.
I love it. That's like, is it aesthetically pleasing? Maybe not, but like you're like fit for purpose.
No.
This bad boy is my favorite. That's
Yeah.
even better. I have a feeling there's going to be probably lots of questions that are going to be followed up on that one. So I think we just had a can of worms moment there, but that's like that's amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
apologies to
yeah,
Andrew.
he's like put me on blast. Uh, All right, coming back to the community, what would you say would be like one or two things that you're looking forward to or you're hoping to get out of being part of Women in Power?
I think it's that network that we've talked about. Like
Yeah,
I want to connect with more people working in the same like vague space that I am working in,
yeah,
but doing different things. Like I want to learn about how you're using Power Platform in whatever industry you work in. Like how is this
yeah.
specifically solving your problems and how did you go about doing that? What did your brain do to be like, this is how we're going to build this solution to do these things? I find that really fascinating. Like I'm
Yeah,
so, again, back to this bubble. I'm such in my IT bubble that I very rarely get to talk to people on the solutioning side of things. Like
yeah,
I'm not really talking to people who are actually building things with Power Platform. I'm just the person yelling at them when they do things wrong. I'm not usually involved in like, what's the cool solution you're building? Like,
right.
what are you doing? How are you doing it? I
And it's
want to
not so
talk to
much
women that
yelling,
are doing this.
it's like passionately talking. That's what I
Oh,
was gonna say. I'm not yelling at you. We're just having a passionate conversation
I
because I
have
care.
I had someone recently tell me that what did they say? They were like, I don't know if you learned this in Canada, just as a Canadian, but you are so good at telling people that you're so good at telling people they're doing something absolutely wrong in such a positive and happy way that they don't even realize that that they're being yelled at. I think it's just that like passive aggressive optimism that's ingrained in my Canadian upbringing.
Passive aggressive optimism. Fantastic.
It's like, yeah, you send someone a message being like, hey, I saw you did this thing, neat, but please stop. Don't do it again. Thank you. Smiley face emoji.
I think, okay, so I would say that I've actually had similar feedback, but mine, who is it on, oh, Schitt's Creek, like where she's like, mm-hmm,
Oh.
yeah, and I'm like, oh, I picked that up, but I'll say like, oh my God, I love that for you, not for me, but this is how I think we could maybe move forward with it, and people are like, that is so passive aggressive. And I'm like, no, no, I'm complimenting the thought. I don't want the action. Like,
Mhm.
and then, and sometimes with our product team, like you have to say, like, that's a great idea. Just like question, why? Why are we why are we working on that? Like, and it's just, I
Mhm.
feel like it's easier. You're like, I'm curious. I also want to stop the behavior. Like, like I want to say you did good, but no, refocus.
It's
That'd
a
be great.
talent.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with you on that one. Okay, so let's see. Oh, my favorite. Do you have a superpower?
Outside of eating large quantities of carbs. Um,
I mean, in itself, that's a good one.
really good at eating lots of pizza. Um,
That's a good
I am
one.
gonna piggyback off of what we just talked about.
Yeah.
Um, I am very proud to probably be a personality hire, which
Yes.
I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. Like,
Nope.
especially in my space, my entire job is adding friction to other people's jobs. Like
It's a
security
polite challenger.
yeah,
Yeah.
security and governance is like that. I am a wall to people's productivity. I am that gate that is stopping people from
Yeah.
accomplishing what they want to accomplish. But I think being a people person and being personable in that role is so beneficial because if I can talk to people and learn what
Yeah.
they're trying to do and how they think
Mm-hmm.
and have that person to person focus and understand like how can I still get what I need to have done with these guardrails
Yep.
while not hindering this person's productivity. Like those conversations are so much easier and it's so much easier to get things done and figure out solutions when you understand people and how
Yes.
people think. So, I think my superpower is that I'm a personality.
I'll take it all day long. And I think I've even said on previous ones where I'm like, don't underestimate personality hires. Like that's the best compliment you could give me is being like, we don't know where she came from, but we're happy she's here. Like it's always a weird question of like, who hired her? But we're not mad. Like I'm okay with that. Like bring it on.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, I think we covered so much. And I really, really appreciate all that you've shared with us today. Again, coming in from such a different perspective of you having to run the mothership of Power Platform, that's the mothership, is huge in itself. So, any parting, things that you'd want to say to the Women in Power community before we wrap up?
Just keep building cool stuff. I want to see it and I want to hear about it.
Yeah,
It's such a fun space. Like this tool, this product lets you do things if you don't have a technical background and you can do things very quickly and very easily. Um, which is part of what's scary from a security perspective, just saying.
yeah,
But it's a fun space to be in. Keep doing what you're doing.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this week's episode of Women in Power. Really appreciate all of your time and guidance. And my face kind of hurts because I've been smiling so much during this thing. So I appreciate all the good laughs and everything too. All right. Well, we will sign off for now. Thank you everyone for tuning in for this week's episode, and we will see you on another one. Bye.